We, as human beings, tell stories all the time. I'm on stage telling you a story. Everyone who comes up on this stage is telling you a story. When you come home at the end of the day and you talk to your loved ones, you're telling them a story about your day. Even throughout the waste industry, we are constantly telling stories. As human creatures, this is how we make meaning of our life. And the better that we can be at telling stories, at conveying meaningful information, the more powerful and impactful we can be as solid waste leaders. So to help you improve that craft, we have brought a wonderful, excellent expert in this space, Dr. Travis May. He is a storytelling and workforce faculty member at the South Mountain Community College here in Arizona. Dr. May helps leaders connect with their customers and constituents through storytelling. So please help me welcome to the stage Dr. Travis May.
Hello. How are we doing? It's like 5 people. Come on, how are we doing? Thank you. All right. You guys are very similar to my students. They come to the classroom and they sit all in the back. What's what happened here? Well, thank you for the introduction. Really appreciate it. Today, we'll spend about roughly a little hour and a half, a little bit less than an hour and a half, going over storytelling. So this is going to be an interactive session. So if you think you're just going to have me up here telling you stories the whole time, you are wrong, all right? We're going to get you guys up and going here, get you guys moving around. And then I'll have you guys also reflect. I definitely will be modeling some stories for you all. But in here in the beginning, I want to do a little icebreaker. And this will probably help you maybe network as well. So I'm from South Mountain Community College. My role there is a storytelling and workforce faculty member, meaning I teach storytelling and I bridge it with the business entrepreneur side of the house. I'm one of 3 faculty members at the community college. We're located about 15, 20 minutes from here at the base of South Mountain. You guys saw the mountain had all those antennas on it when you come in? We're at the base of that mountain right there, so not too far away. We're the only storytelling institute in the country that has that, and we're at a small little community college. So we do a lot of workshops, little things like that. So we're very, very fortunate, unfortunate to be there at the campus. So with that, this is what I want you guys to do for a little activity. This right here is the first storytelling prompt. So I want you to kind of think about these prompts. Do you remember a time when you said yes to the wrong person? Do you remember a time you had a date or appointment or meeting that went wrong? Or do you remember a time when you needed help and you got it? So this is what I want you to do. I'll give you a little time here to think about it. But I'm going to have you get up and then turn to your neighbor and tell that little kind of story, all right? So hopefully you don't get too scared on me and run out. But that's the task, all right? So I'll give you like 10 seconds to think about it. Look at these 3 prompts, and then we'll move on. Some of you are laughing. Said Ross, yes to the wrong person here. Okay, so go ahead, find a neighbor, find a partner, and just turn to your left, turn to your right. And what I want you to do is, I'll time you roughly, right? Roughly timing. You got about 3 minutes. One person's the teller, the other person is just strictly listening, all right? 3 minutes, go, go, go. All right, if you switch partners, if you haven't done already, switch partners. I'll give you another couple minutes. Go. Another minute. All right, let's move it on to the second prompt here. So think about this other second storytelling prompt. Do you remember a time when a mentor who has guided you? Do you remember a time when you were misjudged by someone, or you were misjudged? You misjudged someone, sorry. You got in big trouble, big serious trouble. But this time, I want you all to stand up, stand up, stand up, stand up, please. You're gonna walk 5 paces in any direction and meet a new person. Go and start telling your story. Go, go. Switch partners if you haven't already. Give you about another minute here, another minute. All right. Let's do one more. So now, I love the chatter. This is good. This is working. All right, third one. Now this time, walk 10 spaces in any direction, but do not talk to the first person you make eye contact with. Go to the second person. Ready? Go. And use one of these prompts. Give you another couple minutes here. One more minute. All right, let's go ahead and try to wind it down and see if you can find your seats here. All right. Well, some of you traveled quite a ways. All right. So anyone want to shout out, how did that feel? Anyone? Anyone? Liberating? Is that what I heard? Woo! Man, what did you got some stuff off your chest. It's great. Man. Anyone else? Normal? What was it? Energizing, yes. Normal. What was normal about it? I heard normal. Oh, that's great. It is normal for you. Yeah. What else? What else? Horrible. Why is that? What's that? Because of you? Oh, you had a bad partner? Oh, okay, sorry. What else? One more. How about over here? Comfort zone, exactly. Storytelling is really about vulnerability. Because anytime when we meet someone new or we have to explain something, especially when it's about ourselves, vulnerability plays a part. There's things in life that you may already have heard, you may already know. That a couple of things that people fear in life are two things. Death, public speaking, right? Throw in taxes in there somewhere, I'm sure. But those are usually the top two things, or in the top 5. So vulnerability is a huge, huge piece of why sometimes we don't like to share, because it gets us out of our comfort zone. And when I have to tell about myself, fear about being judgment, fear of criticism, things like that. And I'm reminded of a story about a man who worked at a job for 20 years. He worked there, he was a good employee, but he got laid off. And the next day he got laid off, he was really bummed out, he was really sad, but he started jumping online, he started looking for jobs. And one of the jobs popped up, it said, $100 an hour. He was like, oh, $100 an hour. But right next to it, it said, you gotta call the zoo manager. He's like, the zoo manager? What in the world is this? So he calls up the zoo manager. The manager answers the phone. He says, yeah, if you're interested, come on down tomorrow morning and we can talk about it. Sure enough, the man went down the next day. He gets in there, he meets the zoo manager. The zoo manager is explaining to him, well, you see this job, our gorilla just got sick and we need someone to fill in for the gorilla. He's like, what? He's like, yeah, but it's $100 an hour, right? The man said, yeah, $100 an hour. He said, you still interested? He said, yeah, I'm still interested. He goes, all right, we can start right now. The guy goes, fine. He goes to the next room, sees the suit there laying down, picks it up, puts it on, zips it up, puts on the head. He looks in the mirror. He's like, I look like a real gorilla. Wow. And you can't even tell the difference. The suit is so lifelike, so real. So they throw him in the exhibit. And sure enough, the zoo opens up, he's in the exhibit, he's walking around trying to figure out, what do gorillas do? I have no experience with this. But he starts pounding on his chest, starts doing things. Kids start coming around, a crowd starts coming around. Next thing you know, he sees this branch kind of just hanging there, and it has a rope. So he says to himself, I'm gonna start swinging. So he gets on this rope, and he just starts swinging, and he says, swinging. He's pumping on his chest. The kids are loving it. People are taking photographs. He's like, man, they must really love me. He keeps doing it. And he goes swinging so high, he loses the grip of the rope, slips off of it, goes over the wall of his exhibit, and lands in the lion's exhibit. Boom! The male lion there kind of wakes up. He's taking a nap, shakes his mane, kind of poofs out. He looks behind him, and something foreign is in his exhibit. He gets really upset. Now the man in the gorilla suit is yelling out, help, help, I'm a man in a gorilla suit, help. And people are like, the gorilla can talk? The gorilla can talk, the gorilla can talk. And they're like really taking photos. And the lion's getting really, really, really upset. He starts to charge the man in the gorilla suit, and he's running, and he's running, and he's running. And the man's like, no. The lion pounces on him, pins him down, opens up his big jaws, the lion, and he roars out, quiet, you're gonna get us fired. Thank you. Vulnerability. Sometimes we like to wear masks. Sometimes we like to wear suits. It's not necessarily, because we like to hide behind things. We necessarily don't want to show our true identity, because it can be scary. So some of you may have experienced that right now. You may find yourself opening up with some of these little prompts, because it focuses us, it makes us kind of think deep about, was there a friend or relation that inspired me? Do I have a story like that? We probably do. But to tell that is something kind of scary. So, next slide here. Story structures. If you're taking notes and you have that little brochure thing that's in there, the little packet, this is in there as well. Story structures. One of the story structures that we like to learn, we learned this from Donald Davis, which is a master storyteller. He's out on the East Coast, and he talks about the 5 Ps. Every good story has the 5 Ps. Usually if you've been in English class or in writing class, you hear about characters and plots and settings. This is the same thing, but we call it the 5 Ps because it's easier to memorize. People. You'll have people in your story. It doesn't necessarily have to be all human stories, because if you're telling a folk tale or a myth or a legend, it could be characters in there as well. So people. Place. Rooted in some type of place, right? Problem. Stories are really good if they have a problem in there, good or bad. We love drama. We have to have it. Movies, every movie out there has a problem or some type of conflict. Otherwise, quite boring. Progress, how does the story move through? How does it move through? And then point, very important. Have a point of the story. Anyone ever been engaged in a conversation where you're talking with someone and they're talking for like 15 minutes and 20 minutes, you're like, what is going on here? You know, and they have no point. You're like, you just wasted 20 minutes of my life, right? Have a point, okay? So this is one type of story structure. So I'm going to encourage you all too, at the later end of this keynote, to kind of think through these structures. Another one, story structure. Anyone familiar with Joseph Campbell by any chance, The Hero's Journey? This is based off of this, but in a shorter version. So Joseph Campbell, he was studying mythology, went around the world studying different cultures and things like that, found out that we all are living a hero's journey. All of you in this room, myself included. It basically starts off with, we live a normal world. What our world is like right now as we know it. We go through trials and tribulations. We have help. Sometimes we'll hit rock bottom. We learn from it. Then we have a new normal world. We're not the same person as we were when we first went on that. Now, hero's journeys could be a death in the family. It could be moving to a new city. It could be anything. It could be really small or really big. So in our life, we have one big hero's journey, and then we have small little ones in there as well. So this one, how was it before? What was happening before? So if you're telling a personal story, what was your life like before? What happened? That's the problem. What changed? What was going on? And then how is it now? Why does it matter? Simple hero's structure. Now, this plays out in movies all the time. Your main character, any Marvel movie you see, any huge movie, the main character will always go through this. How was the world like? Something happens, a problem. This is the end result now. Beginning, middle, and end. Simple storytelling structure. I will give you an example here. This is a true story, and I still don't know how this happened, but it did happen to me. I grew up here in Phoenix, locally, and we had a bus system. It was called TICO, T-I-C-O, and it had a little flower, sun on it with a sombrero, and it had sunglasses. So my friends and I were going to catch from South Phoenix down to Mesa to go to the mall. And I had a Walkman. You guys know those Walkman radios with the tape player? Like that? I had one of those. And my friends had one as well. As we were going, I usually always loved to buy candy. I always had candy with me. And I love Skittles. Sometimes I'll buy the red bag. Sometimes I'll buy the green bag. But this time I just bought a bag, and I took it with me. So we got on the bus. It was kind of in the morning, and no one's on the bus. I sit on the side with the window behind me and a window in front. My friends sit in the back. As we are traveling, a couple stops, A gentleman, elder in age, got up, got on the bus. He kind of looks around. He's looking around, and he sits right next to me. I'm thinking, what? Why did he sit next to me? There's all these real estate right here. He sits right next to me. So I don't say one word to him. Maybe he wants to strike a conversation. Well, he doesn't. As we keep traveling, I hear something kind of wrestling around on my side, right by him. I'm thinking, what is going on here? And then I see this, kind of corner of my eye. He's like, and he's eating. No. Is he eating my Skittles? No, he's not. Now, mind you, I'm like 16 at this time. I'm a little nervous. I'm a little fearful. I don't want to say anything. I'm kind of scared. My friends are in their own world, and he just keeps eating. I go, what do I do? What do I do? So I did the only thing I could. I just looked at him. I locked eyes with him, and I reached in the bag, 2 fingers, and I just started eating. And we started sharing that bag of Skittles. He did not say one word to me. I did not say one word to him. As we kept going around the stops, he would look at me, I would look at him, he would share, and he would eat. I thought, this is the weirdest thing ever. How dare this man eat my Skittles? This is not right. Well, finally the bus had stopped, and he was going to get off. And as he got off, he kind of turned to me and he waved and he smiled. And as he got off the bus, the bag of Skittles went with him. And I thought, what in the heck just happened here? Now this guy robbed me. He robbed me again. So I was trying to figure out what's going on. And I remember as he was going down, I looked up, I got up on the other side of the bus. I noticed in his hand, there was a red bag of Skittles. And I remember thinking, this time around, I did not have a red bag of Skittles. I had a green bag of Skittles. And I thought, what? As I turned around, in between the seats, unopened, was my green bag of Skittles. And I thought, oh my God, what just happened? And I just realized at that time that I was eating his bag of Skittles the whole time. I had no idea. They even taste different, and I still didn't get it. Couldn't believe it. The green ones are sour. But I learned at that moment that sharing is caring, all right? So now, going back to my structure, what were the 5 P's in my story? Anyone want to shout them out? Who were the people in my story? Me, my friends, the man, right? All right, place, the bus, problem, Skittles. Yeah, I thought he was stealing my Skittles. I thought I got robbed. Yeah. Progress, how's the story move through? We should end up sharing, right? That's how it progressed. Now the point of the story, it can be many points, but the one I ended with was sharing is caring, right? Now I could use that story and pivot that story however. I could have used as a lesson learned, non-judgment. It could have been a story about non-judgment. Don't always judge people, right? So this story structure, how was it before? How was my life before? I was just a kid with headphones on a bus, right? What had happened? Skittles happened, right? Skittles happened. How is it now, and why does it matter? From that moment on, though, I did learn. Anytime in a story, when you hear from that day on or from that moment on, that's the change. That's what's going to happen. So sharing is caring. That's what I learned. Does it make sense so far, folks? Yes? Head bobs? Bobbleheads? Here we go. Anyone know the difference between an anecdote and a story? Anyone want to give a shot at it? Anyone know the difference? Okay. Close. Anyone else? Yes. Anecdote doesn't have a point. Very good. You're right on it. So this is the main difference. A story documents change. Documents change. You can make it up all you want, but a lot of stories now, what's really popular now is personal storytelling. It has to document change. An anecdote doesn't necessarily document change. So for instance, anyone here from Phoenix? Local? No, just you? So the couple of you that are, you know these roads here are flat, straight, and wide. And people drive on this thing like it's the Indy 500. They do not slow down. When it's yellow, they go, right? And one time I was on one of these roads, and I was on my way home from work. It went from green to yellow, so I started to slow up. And as I slowed up, I heard this screeching sound. And I just tensed up. Oh my God, don't hit me. I have no idea where it came from. And then it stopped. And I looked around, and I was like, oh, I'm okay. That's an anecdote. There's really no point to that. I was just sharing kind of an experience of what had happened to me, right? That's an anecdotal little story. Now, a story documents change. One of my first jobs that I had when I was 16 was at a temp agency. I was helping my friend's, good friend of mine, his dad. It was on a weekend. And my job was to welcome the people in, ask them a question on what job they are looking for, jump on the computer, and try to find it. Simple as that. So this man came in. He was huge. He was a big guy, right? But he had a handlebar mustache, and he had a hat, like a trucker type guy. And he had this southern drawl. And he came in, and he goes, I want a job as a scuba diver. I said, scuba diver? I'm like, man, we're in Phoenix. Scuba diving. He's like, no, job as scuba diver. So I was like, oh, man, this is going to be rough. So I go, okay, sir, let's go to the computer and look up scuba diver. So I jump on the computer. Sure enough, nothing comes up in the Phoenix area as a scuba diver, right? Plus, I cannot picture this guy in tights, a big guy in tights, squeezing in. Can't see it. I said, sorry, sir, I don't have a job as a scuba diver. He goes, no, you have many jobs as scuba diver. Scuba diver. I was like, what? We don't have many jobs, I'm telling you. I'm looking at the computer. There's no scuba diver. He goes like this. And I go, oh my goodness. He's a what? School bus driver, right? And I go, oh, you want a job as a school bus driver? Yeah, scuba diver. I'm like, oh, fine. I was able to find him a job. But that was a change that happened. So can you guys figure out what was the change that happened in that story? What was the change? Huh? Understanding, my perception. That's change. That documents the change right there. Otherwise, I would have had no idea. This guy would have led me on a wild goose chase if he didn't do the body language. Body language was key in this one, right? So that documents change. So it's something simple. A story does not have to be long at all. That one I just told you was probably about a minute, maybe a little over a minute. Nothing at all, but it documents change. So that's the huge difference right there. Let's see here. This is also important. For storytelling in many professions, storytelling is used in marketing, businesses, leadership, you name it. Storytelling is really used right now. A lot of Fortune 500 companies are using storytelling. But to be an effective storyteller, you have to know a few things. One, you got to know who the teller is. So if that's you, you are the teller, right? The other thing is the story. What story do you have? What is the story and what point do you have? Also, who is your audience, right? Who's your audience? Knowing who your audience is very, very important. And then context and purpose. What context are you going to use the story in? You don't have to have a huge repertoire of stories. If you do, great. But you can always take the one story and tweak it. So for instance, if we take my Skittles story, I told you that sharing was caring. That was my point. But I also, to make another point, I could have said, I learned a story about non-judgment. I could have used it that way. That could have been my purpose. So understanding the context and how you want to use it and what purpose is very, very important. Always keep this in mind. I'll give you an example. I had an individual at work. His name is Bill. I used to work in IT for many years as a project manager, and I used to design classrooms and things like that for instructional use. And Bill was asked by our supervisor, he says, I have 50 computers in this classroom. They need to be all re-imaged. They all need to be reworked. And you have to do it by the end of the day. And Bill was like, okay, fine. He went out, and he did it. He re-imaged him. He fixed him. He got him going. And he did it actually in a couple hours. He was really, really fast with it. When he came back, he talked to the supervisor, and he goes, hey, I did it. Thanks. I did it. I'm done. Well, our supervisor did not even thank him at all. He just said, okay, and he walked away. And I remember seeing that. And then Bill, he was ticked. And was like, man, I got this done in record time. I did not get a thank you. He did not apologize. He didn't do anything. I didn't get no praise. So I saw that happen. And then a couple hours later, I saw Bill again. And he was still upset that he did not get a thank you from the supervisor. So I said, Bill, let me tell you a story. So once upon a time, there was this monk. There's this Buddhist monk. Had a nice yellow robe on. And he had an apprentice walking with him. And it had just rained that day, and there was this water kind of made like a little stream, and it got really muddy. But it was too wide to kind of jump across. So the two monks, the master monk and the apprentice, saw this young girl standing by the edge, and she wanted to get over. So the master monk took off his robe. He kind of laid it down over that muddy, watery kind of creek area. He picked up the young gal, stepped on his robe, crossed it, set her down, and she just took off. She didn't say thanks, didn't even give him eye contact, but just walked away. The apprentice followed. The monk picked up his robe, shook it off, he put it back on, and he kept walking. 2 hours had passed. The young apprentice says, Master, master, that's it, I'm done, I have to say something. The young master goes, well, what's going on? He says, that girl, you lifted her up, you threw your robe down, you walked on your robe, and she did not say thank you. And the master looks and says, you still thinking about her? I put her down hours ago. And he kept walking. So I told Bill that story. Sometimes focusing on those little things, we may do tasks, we may not even get a congratulations or a thank you, but to just put it down and to keep moving. Once I kind of told him that story, he thought about it. He was like, yeah, you're right. I should just probably put that down and keep moving. So in storytelling, a lot of us think that we always have to have a personal story to tell someone. We don't have to. That story I just told you is a little folk tale. You know, it doesn't have to be something major, personal to us. It can be a folk tale, a fairy tale, a myth. When I teach classes, I have my students look up myths and legends and fact-based stories and folk tales. Something that has meaning and values in them. As storytellers, as a storyteller, always imagine, you know that little red wagon as a kid? Imagine you're pulling that wagon, and inside that wagon there's values in that wagon. What values do you want to tell to your audience? That's huge. So when we're talking about context and purpose and audience, what values do you want your audience to walk away with? Is it making sense? Yes? No? Thank you. Now, there are 4 types of leadership stories. This is just something I came up with. Nothing too wild. But I'm going to tell you 4 of these stories. Then after that, I'm going to encourage you to think of one of these stories. I want you to pick one of these. Either pick a why story, a teamwork story, lesson learned story, or a story about overcoming. And you may have something in your own profession, your own personal life that has touched on this. So I'm going to kind of start with a story about overcoming. I'm going to start kind of from the bottom up. And this is the personal story. My friend Tony and I was about, I don't know, 20 years ago, we actually went on spring break. We went to Maui. Anyone been to Maui? Beautiful, beautiful place. We went to Maui, we found this secluded beach. No one was on it. I said, hey, let's just go out, let's just go swimming. So him and I, we went out there, we started swimming, and we started kind of just talking and hanging out. And next thing you know, I kind of look up. I'm like, whoa, we are really far from the shore. The current had just kind of swept us, and we didn't know it, and it took us farther and farther. And it seemed like we were probably 50 yards out, and we kept slowly floating out. So automatically, I started to panic. My friend Tony started to panic as well. He goes, what do we do? I said, Tony, we got to get back. Well, we started swimming. And of course, if you go directly against the current, it's rough. It's not the way to do it, but we didn't know at the time. So we kept swimming. And then all of a sudden, I heard this voice behind me, because we couldn't touch the floor, we couldn't touch the ground. It was so deep. And my friend Tony goes, Travis. I turned around. He goes, I'm not going to make it. And he started to sink. And his head went under. His whole face went under. And all he had was his arm sticking out, trying to grab me. I turned around, and I grabbed his hand. Because in that moment, I thought to myself, I'm not going to die in this place. Not in Hawaii. No way. So I grabbed him. And as I grabbed him, I had put my left foot down. And I felt something solid, like a rock. Like it just appeared out of the blue. I grabbed him, and I caught him, pulled him towards me. And he clinged onto me. And he had taken in water. He kind of got his head up, and he was spitting out water. And I saw in his eyes that it was not good. So I pulled him in, and I finally, we kept trying to walk and swim. And luckily, there was boulders that were fine. There's like those lava rocks. We kept kind of grappling to him. And him and I, hand in hand, made it all the way to the shore. And when we got there, both of us just laid down. It's like, oh, man, like what just happened? We almost died. All of a sudden, a lifeguard comes up and says, hey, you guys almost died. It's like, yeah, where were you? He goes, you guys need to swim parallel next time to the shore, parallel. I was like, help next time. So now we make a joke out of it. But that was a story about overcoming, because it was fear. And I remember seeing my friend Tony's, his eyes, that he had lost hope. His facial expressions, the words that he said, I'm not going to make it. And that scared me. It really scared me. And I thought I was going to lose him, and maybe even myself. So that's a story about overcoming fears. So think about that. Think about what story do you have about overcoming. Lesson learned story. Now, one of the second jobs that I had was at a grocery store. Anyone work at a grocery store by hands? I was a courtesy clerk, AKA bag boy, right? But one of my jobs as a bag boy, you're the lowest on the totem pole. So they have you clean out the freezers, they have you clean out the milk, the eggs, whatever. So one of the jobs that I had to do was go into the cooler. The store manager said, Travis, you're going to get in the cooler, and there's a crate. So you know how you have the milk rack, and it's on wheels, and you can pull it out, and there's eggs, and you can pull it out. Well, there's a grill grate down there. It's like a little gutter. So you've got to pop out the grill grate, and all of that ugly milk and eggs, yolk. It smelled horrible. So my job was to hit gloves and like a little hand shovel and dig it out, and then spray it down with Windex and clean it, get it spick and span, and then put everything back. And I was in that freezer for like over an hour. I had a beanie on, I had a parka, and I was like, oh my God, this job. I knew right then and then school was important. It's just right there. I was like, this is it. So I cleaned it all out, got it spick and span. Well, it was time for me to put the milk and the eggs back. So I was pushing the eggs back, right? And as I push it forward, I forgot to put the grill grate back. And it hit that little ditch, that little gutter. It hit, and all the eggs on that rack went like this. And you know how you have the glass door where you open it? Well, there happened to be a lady reaching in at the same time to grab eggs. And as it tipped, it fell all up on her. And all these eggs fell on her. And I just remember slow motion, no! And all these eggs. And I was like, oh my word. And I was standing there like this, just watching, right? And of course, people who are there trying to buy eggs and milk, they're looking in at me like, hey. And next thing you know, I hear, clean up in the dairy section, clean up in the dairy section. I go, oh, great. Well, the store manager comes over, and he looks inside at me. And I'm still standing there in shock. And he has a bunch of paper towels. He has a wet mop. And he's out there cleaning, right? And he's cleaning, and he's cleaning. He's on his hands and knees. I go, oh, I better go help him. So I go out, and I help him clean up. And I thought for sure he's going to fire me. I've only been on the job 6 months, and he's going to fire me. It's like, I can't even keep a job. My mom's going to be mad. Can't keep a job. And sure enough, the whole time I'm thinking, he's going to fire me, he's going to fire me, he's going to fire me. But he looks at me after I help him clean up. He goes, "Do you know what you did wrong?" I said, "I do." "Will you ever do it again?" "No, I will never do that again." Promise. He goes, "Okay." He goes, "Help clean this up and then get back to work." And he walked away. And I thought, wow. I knew right then and there what type of leader I wanted to be. If I ever got in a supervisory role, that's what I wanted to do. I didn't want to yell at someone for making a mistake. No matter how big the mistake was, I didn't want to yell at them. I wanted to have an understanding. Do you understand what you did? Yes. Will you learn from this lesson? Yes. Now, the store manager apologized to this lady. I think she got free coupons for life. I don't know what happened to her, but she was A's all over. So that is a lesson learned. I learned how to be a good supervisor or manager at that time. It affected me. A teamwork story. Teamwork story. This is a folktale that I came across many years ago, and it was about this raindrop. It was raining one day, and it hit this leaf in the jungle. Huge, huge leaf. Kind of just landed there. And it was there, all these little drops on this huge leaf. And it looked around, and it saw his friends. So life is good. But then all of a sudden, all his friends' leaf drops started to slide off, and they started to fall. He goes, "No, where are you going?" He looks to the side, "No, where are you going?" And they all just fell off and fell off. He goes, "My friends." He looks on this leaf. He's the only raindrop on the leaf. Soon enough, he feels it, shaking, and he's starting to slip. He's starting to slip, and he slips all the way off the leaf. And as he falls, he goes, "No, help!" Falls right into a lake. And in that lake, he sees all his friends around. He says, "Hey, how you doing? How you doing?" His friends say, "Hey, we are now better as one. We are bigger. We're in a bigger body. And now that we are more water and that we are bigger, we can do better things. We give life to the animals, the plants, the jungle, the trees. Now we work as one." So that's a folktale about teamwork. Teamwork. Now the why story. You may have a why story in your life of why you do what you do. Why are you in the industry that you are? Do you help people? Do you help communities? Why do you do it? What's that? I'm going to tell you a story of why I teach storytelling and why I'm a faculty member. When I first started storytelling about 8, 9 years ago, I started teaching. It took me about 1.5 years to really get into it. Kind of feel bad for my first students. I have no idea if they learned or anything. But it was a summer school class in the summer from 8 to 10 o'clock, Monday through Thursday, 2 hours a day for 5 weeks. After I gave up the syllabus, I told the students, you have to tell 4 stories in my class: a folktale, myth, legend, fact-based, or a personal story. You got to tell 4 of them. And in there, they all have to be 5 minutes long. So after you hand out the syllabus, after class is over, this young gal, she's probably 18 years old, comes up to me and she's crying. Crying. And I'm like, oh my goodness, did I offend her? What did I say? She goes, Mister, I can't do this class because I can't speak in front of people. I'll go, why? She goes, I just have a fear of doing it. I can't do it. So I told her this little folktale. And I said, once upon a time, there was this man walking on this path. And he had his head down. He was always depressed. And he told himself, I can't do this. I can't do this. I need something to change my life for the better. I need some type of wealth or riches. And he kept walking this path. And then one day, as he was walking it, he heard this voice. Hey, you. He looks around. He's the only one on this path. He looks down and he sees this flower. And this flower's talking to him. It's like, what? The flower goes, yeah, you. I see you walking this path every day, moping around, wishing for a better life. I can make that happen for you. He's like, really? He goes, pluck me out of the ground, pick me up, and then wish for anything. I'll make it happen. The man goes, fine. Picks it up, looks at it, goes, that mountainside right there, I want it to open up. And I want all the gold, the diamonds, the jewels to be in there. And I want it. Done. The mountain starts to open up, starts to crack open. The man's really happy. He starts running down the path. And as he gets in there, sure enough, all the gold, the wealth, you name it, it was in there. He throws the flower down to the side. He starts gathering stuff, and he starts taking it outside that cave. And as he does it, the flower says, "You forgot the main thing." The man goes, "The main thing?" So he goes back in looking for the main thing, grabs more jewels, diamonds, whatever, sets it outside. The flower says, "You forgot the main thing." He goes, "What?" Kicks the flower. He goes back in. As he takes up his last kind of handfuls of stuff, the flower says, "For the last time, you forgot the main thing." He goes, "Be quiet." He goes out, and as he goes out, he dumps all his pile there. The cave closes up. Everything that he had piled up on the outside of the cave starts to dissipate, and it disappears. The cave closes up. The man forgot the flower, which is the main thing, because that flower gave him access to something he didn't have. It gave him something. It made him something better for even a brief moment. So I told that little folk tale to the young gal in my class. She stopped crying. She walked away. I was like, man, she's going to drop. She's going to drop my class. That story didn't help. So she walks away. The next day, she comes a half an hour early to my class, 30 minutes early. I go, whoa. I didn't talk to her. I didn't say anything. She didn't have a conversation with me. She sat in her class. When it came time to tell her story, she told 4 stories. Her first one was 6 minutes long. Her second one, 8 minutes long. Her third one was 10 minutes long. And her fourth one, which was a personal story, 30 minutes long. And in that story, she told about why she had a problem with public speaking and meeting new people. Because growing up, she was physically abused and verbally abused by her stepdad. Beat it out of her. She felt like she wasn't worthy. She felt like she wasn't valuable. She felt like she didn't have a voice in this world. She feared it, huge, big time. After that class, everyone was crying, me included. It's like, oh my goodness, that was a great story. After that, she comes up to me. She goes, "Mister, I want to thank you." I said, "Why?" She goes, "Because I didn't forget the main thing. I remembered my voice, that I have a voice and I'm valuable." I was the one crying. "Oh God, thank you, thank you." I was so emotional. And so at that moment, I knew right then and there, this is why I love teaching. If I can change one person's life by whatever means, this is worth it for me. So for me, that's my why story of why I teach and why I love teaching. So now, I'm going to challenge you all with the time we have left. And your booklet there, start writing down. Pick a why story. Pick a teamwork story, a lesson learned story, or a story about overcoming. Pick one of these stories. And on there, you can draw out the 5 Ps, or on the notes, there's another part that has a chunking sheet in there as well. Just write out your ideas, your notes, and then what I'll have you do is partner up, kind of like we did in the beginning. I'm going to give you a couple minutes to do this, 4 or 5 minutes. Ready? Go. Go ahead, go. Think about it. Give you a couple more minutes here. About another minute here, and then get you guys pairing up. All right. Maybe done, you might be close. So what I wanted you to do, I'm gonna challenge you to find a partner in the room. Find a partner, find anyone, find a partner. And then what we'll do is we'll pair up here. So go ahead and find a partner that you wanna go ahead and share this with. And tell them whatever story that you've had kind of jot down or thinking about. Even if it's not fully complete, that's okay. So, there's a second part to this as well I want to share with you all. One person will be the teller. The other person will be the listener. But as the listener, always to be an effective storyteller is to be a really good active listener. That's really key, because that's how we can relate and pick up on things. So as the listener, when they're done telling, I'll probably time you guys for about 2 to 3 minutes here, the teller. After that, as a listener, give affirmative, positive feedback. So when they finish telling your stories, tell them what you liked about the story, or tell them what you enjoyed, or maybe you want to know more about something. Give that feedback to that teller. Make sense? All right, I'm going to give you about 2.5, 3 minutes. Go. And then we'll switch partners. All right. So if you were the listener, go ahead and give feedback to your teller. Go ahead and give feedback. What did you like about their story? What do you want to know more about? Things like that. I'll give you about 30 seconds. Go ahead, go. All right. Now let's switch. If you haven't done so already, switch. Now the person who is the listener is now the teller. The teller is now the listener. I'll time you guys about another 3 minutes. Ready, go. Go ahead, go. About another minute. All right, if you haven't done so already, go ahead and give feedback to your teller. 30 seconds, go ahead, go. All right. Let's go ahead and bring it back. Let's bring it back. Does anyone want to volunteer to tell our little story here? Anyone? Any volunteers? Volunteers? Or be voluntold how we want to do this. We can play this either way, folks. Any volunteers? We do have a microphone right here. A lot of people in the back row, yes. I can see you, although the light is on me. I can see you. No takers? No takers? No brave souls? One? You want to come up here? All right, give her a hand. That's awesome. So see if you could do it in like 2 to 3 minutes here, we'll give you. All right? What's your name?
I'm Kimberly.
Kimberly. Let's give another round of applause for Kimberly. All right. Thank you, Kimberly.
All right. Hello, everybody. Hi, I'm Kimberly. I work at the Arizona Science Center right next door. So it's a children's science museum for kids, and I am in the galleries, and we get to do tabletop activities for them. And this actually happened last weekend. We were doing a water quality testing activity where you get to test the pH, the salinity, and the temperature. And it just gives them a fun activity learning about how to do science, I guess. And so it was really early in the morning, and we had a bunch of young kids and a bunch of older kids, and they all came up to me, and I was kind of having trouble facilitating with like 4-year-olds and a 10-year-old, because you got to give a lot of instruction, and then the 10-year-old was kind of like bored because he already knew what to do, and the parents were chiming in and being like, my kid wants to do it, my kid wants to do this too, and really only 3 people can do it at a time. I was getting all buzzed, and I was like, oh man, I shouldn't have done this activity, I should have done something more simple, and I was getting kind of overwhelmed and like worried about their experience. But at the end of the activity, the 10-year-old goes, wow, I had no idea how complex water testing is. And he's like, I thought you just put it through a purifier machine, and then that's how you know water is, good enough to drink. And so it was really cool just to see that no matter how I was facilitating, the kids were actually still learning and having fun. And these 2 girls then said after the activity, we're best friends because we want to be marine biologists when we grow up. And just like seeing the kids like really learn, and me being visible and having those resources for them was really like the reason why I love my job. And
Very
get
good.
To be there for them.
Very good, Kimberly. Thank you. Good job. Great job, Kimberly. If I was giving out points, definitely an A right there. Yeah, good job. Any other brave soul? Anyone? One more quick one? Quick one? You got a 2-minute story, 3-minute story? Come on up. What's your name? Darshan. Darshan? All right, let's give him a hand.
Well, my story goes, I immigrated from India in 1981. I couldn't get a job, so I moved to Yellowknife, Northwest Territories in Canada, which is parallel to Alaska. It's above the 60th parallel. I got a job with a lumber company delivering the lumber. I never drove on ice and snow. So the first job they gave me to deliver this box at the airport, so I took it. And there was, when I was going at about 50 miles per hour, the sign says 30. So I tried to slow it down. I pushed the pedal, and it just spun. And bang, I hit another car and got into the accident. So I went back to the employer. I said, this is what happened. And he said, okay, now you can take my other truck. So same thing happened. And I was going to the town, and the light turned yellow, and I immediately pressed the brakes, and it spun, and luckily there was no other car. So I came back, I said, I cannot drive your car. I cannot do this job. He said, this is the job only I have. I said, he's gonna fire me. He never did that. He said, well, you can take a couple of days off, and you can come back when you're ready. So I was so scared of driving on the ice and snow. Then I took a couple of lessons, and slowly I started driving, and then I drove taxi for 5 years over there. Every winter and every time I just took it over and got it over. Thank you.
Very good, very good. Thank you. Good job. Thank you to the brave souls. All right, next, I'll entertain any questions, if you guys have any questions. And I think we're going to use the Slido thing. Any questions that you guys have? You want to, go ahead.
So, kind of interested in your thoughts just with the kind of explosion of content that's happened in YouTube and podcasts and the world. Are we in this kind of new realm of storytelling, this kind of unfederated storytelling?
So with YouTube and social media and things like that, that medium as the storytelling, well, what we like to say is storytelling is an ancient skill, but we're bringing it to the modern times, right? And using social media and YouTube, that's just a modern medium. However, when we talk about the basics and story structure, that's always very important and who your audience is. So I don't mind. I think social media is a good marketing tool. A lot of people use it as really well for marketing and YouTube. So that's it's a good medium. It's a good tool to use. However, there are a lot of stuff out there that is definitely nonsense, that gets really oversaturated. But for you all, and hopefully I was able to communicate that, it's really important to be purposeful with your story and have that value. So when we talk about that wagon, you're pulling up values. What do you want your audience to walk away with, that point, that value? It's very, very important. You can use any medium you want. All my classes, I teach oral storytelling. However, one of the classes I do teach is digital storytelling, which we do talk about social media, YouTube, creating your own kind of like iMovie thing. But that's just the medium. The structure is the same, the 5 Ps, what happened before, what's the problem, and what's the end result. If you can keep that structure, doesn't matter what tool you really use. Does that make sense? Yeah. Any other questions? Any questions? No, I'm not this good, folks. Come on. Any other questions, concerns? Yes?
So, in the current political climate, it seems like the only thing we get are stories, and that fact has sort of lost its way. Where does fact and storytelling intersect?
Good question. So political climate, seems like the truth kind of gets, where's the facts? The facts and the story kind of get blurred. That's a really good question. So with fact-based stories, it's really the onus of the teller, whoever that is, to make sure the research is done well. Because in our political climate, and it seems like now, it's fascination. It's the entertainment factor. They can say anything and it'll catch squirrel. You know, like, oh, God, yes, that's a new thing, right? So for us, of course, as the audience, and I'm sure you already know this, it's looking at multiple sources to base our decisions. Right? There's a lot of media outlets. We can't just take one for granted because there's a lot out there. So we are living in a day and age to where we need to have validity in that. We need to see, hey, is this true? Is this happening? Try to get as much of that story that we can, because it does get watered down now. And stories, although we hear a lot of stories, yeah, some of them are not true. And that's called a liar. You're lying, although it's in a story narrative, right? And we are living in this age where the lines are really blurred. But for when it comes to fact-based storytelling, if someone's going to tell a story about World War II in my class, you better have the facts right. You better do your research and hit a lot of avenues. And that has to come out. So I teach my classes to really do your research and use multiple sources, like cite. It's really going back to that whole academia part of it. It's a good question. Anyone else? Yes?
Evaluating a story or a movie, or do you have forms or manners to evaluate effectiveness?
To evaluate a story for its effectiveness. Well, one of the things as far as, I guess my students in class, one of the things, can you just get up here and tell? Is one. But I'm looking at story structure. Is the structure there? And there's a lot of times I've heard some really, really good stories, and it's all in there. And sometimes I've heard some really stories of like, they have the structure right, but maybe they didn't grasp maybe the point. They didn't really hit their point. So when I'm looking at evaluating, and in my classes, I never say anything negative. So that's why I had you guys go and give affirmative feedback to your teller. Because in my classes, it's all rooted in positive feedback. Because so many times out in the world, we always get criticism. We want to hit a negativity. What am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? I need to know. I need to know. We forget to really ask ourselves, what am I doing right? What did you like about what I was saying? And let's work on that. Because if you're working on the positive things and building on that, sometimes that negative stuff just starts to fade. So for me, in my classes, when I start teaching, it's always about positive affirmative feedback, really. And that's kind of what I'm looking at. What did they do well? Let's focus on that. And then I start training that way. Does that make sense for you? All right. Here's another question. I think we oftentimes miss the human element when we talk about recycling. Do you have any suggestions about how we can humanize our work? Well, storytelling is right up that avenue as far as humanity. And that's why storytelling is really, really important, especially when we have personal stories. Because we all have emotions, right? We know what sadness is like. We know what happiness is like. We know what fear is like. We might not have that same exact story, but I might have something that's relatable. So for instance, the stories that I told you today, you might not have a Skittles story like that. You might not have the story of me and my teaching experience, but you can probably relate to that. You could probably feel for that student who got abused, perhaps, that emotional part. So never forget about the emotion of a story. So when we're talking about having that humanity and humanizing something, what is that emotion that's attached to it? And don't forget the values. The values is very, very important. What values do we have? Can you start a story with a joke that is related to the story to break the ice? Yes, you can. I did it earlier, right? So you can always open up, but make sure it has a point, though, too. So my point of that joke in the beginning about the gorilla story was about what? Vulnerability. Vulnerability, because storytelling is about vulnerability. So all the stories I told you today had some type of point that was related to you all, my audience. So yes, you can open up with the joke. I would keep it PG-13 for sure, right? But yes, you can. But try to make it, if you can make it relatable to your topic, even better. Any suggestions for how to strongly end a story, words or phrases to use? One of the best things I like, and I kind of mentioned it before, is anytime you say this, from that moment on, I was never the same person. Mic drop, walk away. Literally, you're done, right? From that day on, I learned to be a better human being. I learned about recycling. I learned about sustainability. You can end it with that. That's usually a good clue. From that day on, from that moment on. How do we tell our waste management story? We are engaged in operations. How do we remember that we have a story to tell when we stayed so busy? It's a good question. We get caught up on our organization, our day-to-day lives so much, sometimes we forget to listen. So that's why I say being an active listener. And it's always, active listening is also with your eyes, right? Watching and listening. It's an art form. Art of storytelling, art of listening, art of communicating. That's all part of it. Body language, hearing with our ears as well. So I think for that, it's kind of being an active listener, listening to the community, listening to your coworkers. Because when we do, that's how we can relate. Any of you been out there and you ask someone, hey, how are you doing today? And you just like keep walking, right? Or someone asks you that, how are you doing? I did, and they just keep walking. Like we ask questions sometimes not really knowing the answer. So being purposeful with that, being a good active listener, being purposeful of how we want to communicate. Because if we are good active listeners, our stories come from there. And then we can start to craft and tell those. All right, I think with that, I got about 2 minutes left. So I want to thank you all for coming out. I want to thank SWANA. I really appreciate it. So put your hands together. You did a great job here. And I believe my contact information is in there, so feel free to contact me and go forward. So thank you so much. Have a good day.